Okay, everyone. I think we'll start. We'll get started here. We'll just do some of the housekeeping first as people are signing on. Um, but yeah, my name is Shane Mailman. I work for the Nova Scotia Sport Hall of Fame. I'd just like to thank everyone for tuning in today. We have a very special guest, and I think that you're really going to enjoy it. Couple housekeeping, and everyone's done a really good job of keeping their audio off so far. If we can just keep doing that, feel free to leave your video on. Try to turn on the your speaker view. It's up in your right hand corner, just so you'll be able to see just Karlee and Bruce. We are recording this. I know there's quite a few classes that just couldn't make the time, so we'll be sharing it shortly after, so everyone has a chance to view it and participate. So that will be fantastic. That's pretty well it as far as that goes. So without taking up any more time, we're really excited today to have Karlee Burgess with us today. The funny thing with Karlee is, besides being a world-class curler, her other claim to fame is being a summer student at the Nova Scotia Sport Hall of Fame. And as I say to our other guests, as great as an athlete she is, she's also a great person, and that's kind of like a running theme with a lot of our sport heroes in Nova Scotia. So I'm just going to pass it off to Bruce, who's the CEO at the Nova Scotia Sport Hall of Fame, and we'll get started.
All right, Shane, thank you so much for organizing this. Good morning, everyone. I think we've got, I don't know, maybe more than 100 classes, probably close to 2,000 kids signed up to hear Karlee talk today. So it's really, really cool. And when we've done these in the past, as you all know, we've a lot of the times presented people who are in our Nova Scotia Sport Hall of Fame. They're older athletes who have retired, and we look back on their career and what they learned. Today, it's a little bit different because we have a young athlete who someday definitely will be in the Nova Scotia Sport Hall of Fame, but she's in the very, very prime of her career. And she comes from a small town in Nova Scotia and is proof that it doesn't matter where you come from. If you work hard, you can achieve whatever you want to achieve. So before we hear from Karlee, we're going to play a little video that shows you some of what she's capable of doing and what she's like when she's in action here. Take a look, okay?
Karlee went curling she's always been around the curling club ever since she was born. Put her on the backboard and she would be there watching us curl. And probably when she was 2 years old, we even got a small pair of curling shoes. Sometimes she would sit on the rock when I was throwing it. You'd see her at 4 and 5 and she was out curling. And she'd be even running to the hog line with the rock and let it go.
So what started to draw me into curling was basically my family. I grew up in a family that was always at the rink every other night. Being around the curling club with them really drew me to curling. Really get passionate about watching it, especially. When I started curling around 6, I fell in love with the sport, and I was kind of on the backboards, always just at practice with my dad. Yeah, my dad would probably be my mentor. Once I get into competitions and stuff, I really enjoyed it.
All right, so there is Karlee, and a tremendous young athlete, and obviously one of the best curlers the province has ever produced at a very young age, doing amazing things. So I want to welcome Karlee. You can all see her there. She's in her red sweater today, taking some time off at work, which we're really happy about. And Karlee, what we've got here, we asked all the kids to send in questions. So I was going to ask you a bunch of things, and I still will, but their questions are really good. So I want to start with one from them, and we'll go from there and see how it goes, okay?
Sounds great. I'm super excited. I just want to say hi to everyone, and I can't wait to talk to you guys, and thank you so much for joining in today. This is super cool. Super cool for me to see all these kids that want to hear from me. So I'm really honored, and I hope you guys enjoy it.
Well, we're talking here about a 3-time world champion, so you want to hear from world champs. Listen, this one comes from the grade 2s and 3s at Tompkins Elementary School in Reserve Mines, Nova Scotia. It's a good one to start with. Why did you choose curling as a sport? And I know in the video we got a little hint of that, but why did you choose curling?
Yeah, so it kind of just started with my family, my grandparents, and even it started from my great-grandfather. They started in curling, and then my dad and both my mom really were competitive in curling, and they loved it. So I always just grew up watching my dad compete at a high level. And soon after, I decided to take it on when I was like 6 years old. So It was a slow start for sure, but once I found a great team, we all had the same goals. I kind of just like fell in love with it, and yeah, just kind of happened.
You know, it's an interesting thing because little kids can be kind of fickle sometimes and bounce from one thing to another. But what was it about curling that I guess grabbed you and more importantly held you early on?
Yeah, so that's a great point. I was a multi-sport athlete growing up. I played soccer, ran track, was even on the basketball team in high school, and I was curling throughout, but I just found a great group of girls to curl with, and the goal of making to the Olympics was always in the back of my head. And I thought with curling, I had the highest potential to get there. And I just kind of stuck with it. I played soccer right up until university, and I just decided curling was my priority. So I stuck with curling. But I would give like so much for all the sports that I did in high school and junior high. Those I learned something from all those different sports that made me a better athlete. So being a multi-sport athlete, I highly recommend. I wouldn't be who I am today without playing soccer, running track, and my basketball team. There's so much I learned from them, which brought me here today.
So let's expand on that a bit because we have a question from Bell Park Academic Center, and the question is, what else do you like to do? And you've mentioned that, but can you talk about a lot of kids these days are encouraged to specialize so early in one thing?
Mhm.
But you say that playing a bunch of things was really beneficial for you. Talk a little more about that.
Yeah, no, for sure. I was very busy in my adolescence and my youth, but I loved it playing on so many different teams. I played winter soccer as well as curling in the winter. I was in summer soccer. Like I said, basketball. I always had my friends and I ran track. And still today, I still have a running group in Winnipeg here that I go with. So it's not, I'm not, even now, I'm not just committed to curling. Like I love just working out for myself in the gym. And like I said, I still have a running group here. So there's so much that brings joy to my life. And I haven't gotten rid of that. Like I said, I've been playing track since I was very young and I still say I'm a runner today. So, um, yeah, and I didn't really specialize in curling until university. That's when university is challenging as you're an athlete because you have to balance so many things. But focusing on just university wasn't what I wanted. I needed to balance the school and um, and doing something that I love. So that's when I focused a little bit more on curling and school, and it brought me here today to yeah, this I guess you guys yeah
Yeah, it's good to be well-rounded is the bottom line, right?
yeah for sure.
Yeah. So from Tompkins Memorial Elementary School in Reserve Mines, did you have a role model growing up?
It's funny you asked that question because I'm actually fortunate enough to play with Jennifer Jones next year. I'm not sure if a lot of you guys know who Jennifer Jones is, but she is one of the greatest in the sport. So growing up, I always looked up to Jennifer Jones and my father. Those were two people that really helped me grow in this sport, watching Jennifer Jones on TV and getting to practice with my dad. So those are my two role models today. I would probably say my role model are still the same. There are two amazing people, and yeah, I've really looked up to Jennifer Jones for a while, and I'm actually fortunate enough to play with her. So super excited, and it's once in a life opportunity that I couldn't pass up.
Here's a good question, Carly. It's again from Tompkins Memorial. Are your teammates in curling, are they also your friends? And do they have to be?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, for me, I've been really lucky enough playing on a foursome of a curling team. There's four people. I've really been able to establish some great relationships with my teammates. It's such a close knit sport where you do a lot together. You spend a lot of hours together. So I have been fortunate enough to become really good friends with my teammates, and my past teammates, I still communicate with. For me, playing on a bigger team, you don't necessarily have to be teammates with everyone, but it makes a big difference having communication and being great teammates it helps you support one another. If someone's struggling or someone needs a little bit of time off, like the three of us will come together and like support our other teammate if they need an extra time or whatever, because we're a close group and we like to share everything and being open. So I think that's the biggest thing for me in my sporting career. I've become really good friends with my teammates and really close, that we're able to openly talk about the sport and our life, and like some positive and negatives that we get through the sport. It helps you open up as an athlete.
Because in curling, a lot of kids might not know this, you spend so much time with these people, don't you? It's not just what you see on the ice.
Yeah, no, for example, right now I'm actually living with my three other teammates. So I live with them, we curl, we train, everything together. So I spend a lot of time with them, and a curling game, for example, is between 2.5 hours to 3 hours of full competition. So let alone 3 hours on the ice, and then we have to go home and eat, sleep, train. So I spend a lot of time with my current teammate right now, but I am thankful for it because again, I'm able to open up to my team as we're so close, and we have a great communication.
Here's a question from Madame Hines, grade 8 class at Kings County Academy. This is one that's going to make you think. Are you ready? You're
Yeah.
going to think here. It's a great question. As a curler, what's the most difficult shot you ever made?
Oh, I ever made. Oh, that's tricky. I ever made.
You have one you remember where you were just, oh my God, I can't believe I pulled that off. Is there one that sticks in your mind from your history as a player?
Uh, well, there is one that does stick out. I don't know if it's the hardest shot I ever made, but as I've been training this shot forever, and I was in the World Junior Final 2018. We were up, I think, 3 against Switzerland in the gold medal game, and it was the last end. It was my last shot, and as a second, so I was throwing rocks 3 and 4 for my team, and I was training this shot a lot in practice, but it's a peel that you hit a guard into the one in the house and you split the one out in the house, so there's no rocks in play. So I it's hard to explain, but there was one up here, it's a guard, and they had another one in the house, so there's shot one, and I peeled it into it and split them both out, so then there was no rocks in play. I don't know if that's the hardest shot, but that's one that I was training as a second, and I will remember that because then there was no rocks in play, and the chances of winning were a lot higher for us in the gold medal game.
Right. You mentioned off the top that you'd love someday to go to an Olympics. You have been to a version of the Olympics. Would you tell all the kids about that experience, where it was, and how you did, and how? Tell us everything about that if you don't mind.
Yeah, for sure. So in 2016, I was actually fortunate enough to be selected for the Youth Olympics. It was actually it's the second consecutive Winter Olympics for the Youth Olympics. So it was very new, and it still is pretty new. But it was a mixed event. So there was 2 men and 2 females on the team. So it was myself and another teammate from Nova Scotia who I was playing with at the time. Her name's Mary Faye. And then there was 2 boys that were selected from BC that we created a team, the 4 of us. So then we actually traveled to Norway and played in a mixed event in the Youth Olympics. Now it basically is a mini Olympics because there's, I can't remember how many disciplines of sports, but there is every sport that you can think of was in this Youth Olympics, and there's almost more than 1,500 athletes from Team Canada. So I remember like the opening ceremonies, there's thousands and thousands of people on the ski hill, and we had closing ceremonies. We had our own hotel, like Team Canada hotel, and all the athletes rallied together. So I remember the men's hockey team came and watched us one day. We went and watched them skiing, and it basically is a mini Olympics. And if you guys ever have the opportunity to learn more about the Youth Olympics or explore into the Youth Olympics, I highly recommend it because I learned so much along that year. I was able to train with some amazing Curling Canada coaches before heading to Norway to compete for Canada. and we were actually fortunate enough to have a successful week, and we played the United States in the final and we got gold medal. And I never played on a mixed event prior to that year in 2016. I've always played on a girls team with 3 other girls and myself, but it was the first time I played with boys, so it was different. But I got to learn a lot about playing with the other gender. I get to learn a lot more about the game, opening my eyes from their kind of their view. And I'm still best friends with them. I actually had a phone call with Tyler Tardy is one of the guys that was playing on the team in 2016, and I had a phone call with them yesterday. Like, I have relationships all over Canada just because of this one opportunity that I had, and I will never forget it, for sure.
Yeah. Listen, what we're going to do, we're going to bring up some slides that show some pictures of you and some career stats and some biographical information. And as we pop them up, let's just you and I talk about what you see and what you remember. So, who are you here, do you think?
I think that might have been like 2015 or 2014. So I probably was 16 or 15. So I was very young. But getting this opportunity to play, I was obviously super excited because I think it would have been one of my first nationals. And yeah, it brings a lot of different emotions back because it's very early on in my career at the national level. But
look at the focus, though. Look at the focus in those eyes, huh?
Yeah, yeah, I was, even at a young age, I was super determined, and looking back at that, I don't, like, it's hard to believe that only that many years ago I was just there, but now I'm sitting here as a 3-time world champ. So it's crazy how life turns around sometimes.
Yeah. Next one. Let's see what the next one is. So here we are with another. Look at that deep focus. You got the eyes there. You're focused on that shot. But what do you think that win is? I know you got a lot of medals. Do you know that win in particular?
I think that's 2018.
Good looking medal too, huh?
Yeah, that was an awesome year. We took a risk. We had a girl from Saskatchewan actually moved to Nova Scotia to play with us. And that was our first year at nationals playing together, and we came out with a gold medal again. So a lot of good things happened that week, and I built a lot of good friendships. But yeah,
What country, Karlee? What country is that in?
Oh, the world medal was in that was in Denmark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in the Denmark medal, that's actually from 2016. And I was 16 years old when I won my first world. So I'm young there, and crazy to think that when I won at 20 in 2020, no, I was actually 21 at that age in 2020. So 2 years ago, that I won a Worlds when I was 16, because the competition at Worlds is it's so difficult, and getting the chance to go represent Canada in 2020, it didn't really hit me that I was 16 and I was also at Worlds. So it's crazy to think. Honestly, I didn't think I would like, looking back, I can't believe I won Worlds when I was 16. That's crazy,
Not
because
many have. Let's go to the next one. Not many have at the age of 16. There's good form. Talk about just talk about focus. What you're thinking of right here as that rock's about to be released. What goes through your mind as an athlete?
yeah, so before stepping in the hack, I have a very specific pre-shot routine, which means the steps to throwing my rock are the same every single time. Now I'm in the middle of my slide here, but before I do sit down and begin my delivery, I always have a couple things in my head that I'm thinking. It depends on what shot I'm throwing, but it's always the same. I take the same breathing technique before I get into the hack, and I really focus and calm my mind before throwing this. Now, once I'm throwing it, there's not really much I'm thinking about externally. I'm only focused on this one delivery that I have, looking at this broom. So I'll be looking straight at my skip, and I'm just focused on myself and my delivery and what kind of weight I'm throwing. But again, my pre-shot routine is very structured to be the same every single time. It's not like that for every athlete, but that's what works best for me. Finding something that calms my body first, and then focusing on lining up towards the broom, and then what something in my head that helps me throw the rock or have a delivery that's a little bit better. So for me, I focus on having my shoulders up and keeping my arm in front of me. Just little tips like that I find really help me as an athlete, just to and make that shot, I guess. That one thing in my head that I just really like to focus on that makes my delivery smoother and helps make the shot that much easier.
Okay, next pick. Let's see what we have here. Here you go. Now here's some biographical information. A record 6 times, and then a 3-time Canadian junior champ and a 3-time world champion. There's a couple of questions here from Annapolis West Education Center from Ms. Pinio's grade 7 ELA class. And Spencer asks this question, and this is basically the question every athlete wants to get asked. What does it feel like to win a world championship as a member of Team Canada?
There's not a lot I can it's hard to describe. I can just remember the feeling of winning, and I see like all my friends and family in the crowd, and I get to hold this Canada flag and wave it to our family. Like, there's so many emotions that go through my body and my mind at that time. But ultimately, winning for Canada is just as big as winning for my teammates and myself. Like, I know Canada is a huge part, but ultimately, like, you got to focus on your own self. Sometimes there's pressure when you represent Canada performing, but especially in curling, this has happened quite a bit now that the other countries have developed to be an amazing athletes, and they're challenging Canada. So representing Canada is an amazing opportunity, but when you win, sometimes it's more important and feels even a little bit better when you get to win alongside your best friends and win for yourself. But it's pretty amazing, and the feelings that come with it is awesome. So there's
I
not a
think
lot.
that
I don't know how to put it in words. Like, it's just yeah, I don't
you
know.
know what,
Like,
the fact that you don't know how to put it in words, I think says that's the answer, right? It's
yeah.
so amazing that you really can't. Yeah, I think that was the final slide. Am I right? Let me just see here. Oh, look at this one more here. So, this is interesting. So we had a question as well from Annapolis West Education Center. You've kind of hinted at this. So, played the last couple of years out of Manitoba, and next year you got this phone call from Jennifer Jones. And I urge all the kids, when this is finished, Google Jennifer Jones, and you'll see, she might be the best curler ever, male or female, period. I mean, she's amazing. So what's that going to be like playing with your hero, do you think?
Yeah, so moving to Manitoba. So before we started, I know Bruce said I was from Nova Scotia. So I am from Truro, Nova Scotia, and I still think of Nova Scotia as my hometown. And the only reason I did move to Winnipeg is to compete at a high level. Moving out west for me was the best opportunity to get to where I am today, or compete at the Scotties. So that's why I took the risk. But hometown is still Truro, Nova Scotia. It will always be my home because I have so much support back from Nova Scotia and like the Nova Scotia Sports Hall of Fame. I'm sitting in Winnipeg, but my heart's still in Nova Scotia. And so fortunately enough, like, moving here to Winnipeg, Jennifer Jones is from Winnipeg, so she knew of my team. And the last couple of years competing at the Scotties and being on TV, we got a little bit more people saw us a little bit more. And Jennifer Jones actually reached out to me in 2021 to participate as her 5th for Scotties. But unfortunately, my team actually got asked to go to the Scotties as a wild card team. So I had to turn her down, but it was an awesome experience to go to my first Scotties as a wild card. It was pretty cool to be one of the first wild cards. There was 3 wild cards at that Scotties, so it was a lot of fun. And then she actually called me recently, and she's a little bit older than us, but she wants to play. She loves the game, how much emotion the game brings to her. It's a huge part of her life, and she wants to play. So she asked if my team would be on board if she came on, and honestly, there's no hesitation for me because I can't pass up learning from one of the best in the world. And she's phenomenal, and the perspective she has on the game, and just listening to her is, I could just sit there and listen to her all day because she has such great things to say about curling and how it has built her as an athlete. So I'm actually good to play with Jennifer Jones, which is going to be super amazing, and she is my hero. And I'll get to learn so much, and I think this opportunity is only going to make myself better and my teammates a little bit better. So yeah, I'm super excited, and it's going to be amazing. Like, it's almost, if any hockey players are sitting in the room, it's almost like getting to play alongside Sidney Crosby. It's going to be like, I honestly, again, I don't have any words for it because I'm just going to learn so much from her. And yeah, it's going to be an amazing year. I was saying, I don't really wish the curling season to be over, but because I still have curling in April, but I'm so excited for next year that I want to get started already.
Yeah. Karlee, I'm glad you mentioned Sydney, because there's Sydney from Cole Harbour, and you talk about Al McGuinness from Port Hood, a great defenseman, and famous boxers from Weymouth Falls in Nova Scotia. And here's you from Truro, and Truro is by no means small, but compared to Toronto, compared to Montreal and Vancouver, it's small. And so for all the kids today that are tuning in from a smaller spot in Nova Scotia, you're proof that you can win 3 world championships and you can be from anywhere. If you, and I'd like you to fill in that blank, as long as you blank, you can do it. What's the answer? What's in that blank for you?
Yeah, I guess for the kids, everyone in the room, sitting in your chair, I was in that exact same spot just maybe like 7 years ago, 8 years ago. I was sitting in the exact same spot in a small school with a very close-knit group of friends. But I got to where I am today as an athlete because of my dedication and my love for the game. By no means, I didn't think I was going to be the athlete I was, maybe sitting at your guys' age right now, but I loved the game so much, and I just wanted to grow so much that I opened the doors to getting my family to help me. I looked at other coaches to help me. And as long as you have that love for the game, no matter what sport it is, no matter what art, craft, anything in your life, just focus on a goal, and setting a goal for yourself is one of the biggest things for me. And it can be an individual goal. Yeah, just have that love for the game, and honestly just work towards what you want. And yeah.
And if you love it like you do, yes, it's hard work, but it's kind of fun too, isn't it?
And example as like going to the gym. Like, going to the gym is hard work, but I love going to the gym because I know it'll benefit me on the ice for the game that I really, really, really love. So again, just finding things to make you that much better in this sport. And listening to other people, because a lot of people, sometimes you'll have input from other people about the sport, like coaches and stuff. And sometimes it is hard to hear, but sometimes it's great for you to hear because it just makes you that much better. So finding that love for the game, setting a goal for yourself, and no matter what town, what community you come from, like, you just set your goals high, and you can achieve them, honestly.
Listen, we could not end this on a better sentiment than that. So, on behalf of Karlee and the Nova Scotia Sport Hall of Fame, for everybody watching across the province, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you got some great messaging there from one of the best athletes the province has ever produced. I'm going to turn it back to Shane to say goodbye and give you guys a couple of parting thoughts. Okay, so Karlee, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for listening, everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much, Karlee. So, I'd just like to thank all the students for tuning in today. Thanking all the teachers for signing your students up to take part in this. I'd like to thank Bruce for, helping us do these things. He's the best. And just as if everyone doesn't already know, Bruce just recently got back from the Olympics broadcasting curling. So he actually knows a thing or two about curling. And, last but not least, I'd like to thank Karlee for taking the time out of her workday to talk to you guys and tell your story. And I mean, Bruce touched on it a little tiny bit, but just to remind everyone why we do these hero chats, it's kind of just to to let you guys all know that, if you have a dream, that, anything's possible. And even from a small town, small province of Nova Scotia, or a small town like Truro, you can do it, right? And it doesn't have to be sport. It can be anything you decide to do in life. So we'll just leave that there. And hopefully everyone enjoys the rest of the Friday, and hopefully enjoys the weekend. And thank you very much. And hopefully we can do another one soon.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone.
Say bye.
Go ahead. Say it again.
Bye, guys.
Unmuted.